Hello, this is Jo from Math Tutor Me. Today we're doing our second lesson on algebraic fractions and we're going to do multiplication and division of algebraic fractions. So last lesson we learned that we had to factorize everything before we can cancel them off. Today we need to do that as well. So factorizing everything in this question. For this first fraction, on the top I can take out a common factor of 5. Okay, that will leave me with a 2x minus 1. Okay, on the bottom of the first fraction, 4x plus 28, I can take out a common factor of 4. Okay, that will give me an x, and 28 divided by 4 is 7 plus 7. Times by, now the second fraction, 6x plus 1. Well, there's no common factor there. There's absolutely nothing I can do with that. So we're just going to write that down. And on the bottom, 2x minus 10, I can factorize out a 10. Oops, 10. Giving me a 2x, and taking 10 out of that will give me a minus 1. Okay, now when you're multiplying, you can cancel anywhere top and bottom. So for example, 2x minus 1 in the first fraction and 2x minus 1, even though it's in the second fraction over here, they don't have to be underneath each other like before, we can still cancel those off. Also, any numbers that have been factorized out can be cancelled. Like this 5 here, 5 can cancel with the 10, because 10 divided by 5 goes twice. Now I cannot cancel this 4 with this 6 because this hasn't been factorized. Okay, so I can't cancel that one away. So that's all the cancelling that I can do. Now I need to multiply what is left. On the top, this is all gone. The only thing that is left is this 6x plus 1. On the bottom, I have 4 in this bracket, and on this side I just have the 2. So what I can do is multiply the 2 with the 4 to get an 8, and I can leave it factorized with an x plus 7 on the bottom like that, and that's finished. Okay, let's try again for question 2. Lots of factorizing to be done here. So we have 4 trinomials. So hopefully you've been practicing those trinomials. Let's see how we go. We need an x at the beginning of both brackets. For this first one, I'm looking for 2 numbers that times to give a negative 20 and add to give a 1. Now 4 and 5 will give me negative 20, and if I make it a positive 5 and a negative 4, that will give me a positive here, a positive 1, and will give me the negative 20 there. So that works. So remember that you can keep using your scrap bit of paper to write down all your options until it gets easier for you to do it in your head. On the bottom, double bracket, x in the front. This time we're looking for numbers that times to give 10 and add to give 7. That's going to be a 2, a positive 2, and a positive 5. That will work. Okay, now second fraction. On the top, we're going to have 2 brackets again. It's got an x in the front of each bracket, sorry. Times is to give a negative 6 and adds to give a negative 1. 2 and 3 will work if I make it a negative 3 and a positive 2. On the bottom, x is in the front of the brackets. Times to give a negative 4 and adds to give a negative 3 will be a negative 4 and a plus 1. Okay, now that everything is factorized, we need to cancel off anything the same on the top and with something on the bottom. So x minus 4 and x minus 4 will disappear. X plus 2 on the bottom, x plus 2 on the top. An x plus 5 and an x plus 5 cancels off. So there's lots of cancelling. All that is left is an x minus 3 on the top and an x plus 1 on the bottom. It's done. Question 3. Now, when you're doing divides, you never actually do divide. What you do is you take the second fraction, you flip it upside down, and you turn it into a times. So we're going to do that, but we're going to factorize it as we go. So this first thing here on the top is a trinomial. It's a harder trinomial. So to do that, we're going to have to multiply the 6 with the 2 to get a negative 12. And we're looking for two numbers that times to give 12, negative 12, and add to give a negative 1. So that would be a negative 4 and a plus 3. Now we don't put them straight into brackets like these ones down here. We have to split the middle term. So that's going to be 6y squared minus 4y plus 3y minus 2. On the bottom, we have another trinomial, and it's another harder trinomial. So we times the 2 with the 1 to get a 2. We're looking for two numbers that times to give 2 and add to give 3. Well, that's going to be a 2 and a 1. So again, we split this middle term. 2y squared, instead of 3y, it's going to be a 2y plus 1y, or y, plus 1. Then we're going to turn this into a times, and as we work on factorizing the bottom of this, we're going to put it on the top. We're flipping our fraction over. Again, it's a harder trinomial. Times the 2 with the negative 1 to get a negative 2. We're looking for two numbers that times to give a negative 2 and add to give a 1. So that would be a positive 2. Where can I write that? A positive 2 and a negative 1. So let's split that apart. 2y squared plus 2y minus y minus 1. And on the bottom, this one's going to go to the bottom. Again, a harder trinomial, times the 3 with a negative 8 to get negative 24. We're looking for two numbers that times to give a negative 24 and add to give 10. Well, that would be a 12 and a 2. If I make the 12 positive, so 12 is positive and the 2 is negative, that's going to work. So let's take this, 3y squared, we'll make that a plus 12y minus 2y minus 8. Okay, so we still have to keep going. We're not factorized yet. Now we need to factorize each of these in pairs. So 6y squared minus 4y, the first two terms, I can take out a 2y, giving me 3y minus 2. Now this is 3y minus 2, so I'm just going to write that in brackets so that I can factorize that further in a moment. On the bottom, 2y squared plus 2y, there's a common factor of 2y there, which will give me a y plus 1. And this is a y plus 1, so I can do my same thing here. Okay, so just doing the same thing for each one. 2y squared plus 2y. 2y is a factor, which will give me y plus 1. I will need to take out a negative out of those two terms there to give me a y plus 1. And on the bottom, I can take a 3y out of those first two terms, giving me a y plus 4, and a negative 2 out of the third and fourth term, giving me y plus 4. Alright, still going with the factorizing. So I'm really having to squash this in, it's quite a big question. So 3y minus 2 is a common factor on the top here, and 2y plus 1 will have to go afterwards. On the bottom, y plus 1 is a common factor, and 2y plus 1 will go on the bottom. Times by, up here, y plus 1 is a common factor, 2y minus 1 And y plus 4 is a common factor, 3y minus 2 on the bottom. Whoa, that's a lot of factorising. Okay, so 3y minus 2, 3y minus 2. 2y plus 1, 2y plus 1. Y plus 1 and y plus 1. And all that's left is 2y minus 1 over y plus 4. Alright, that was a bit bigger than the space I provided there, so hopefully you can squash that in. Okay, that was a big question with lots of hard factorising, so that was really testing your ability to factorise those harder trinomials. Okay, let's see if we can fit question 4 in this space we have left here. We need to factorise this first one in pairs. Well, actually, a plus b, we could just leave the a plus b there. And these two here, that's actually a difference of 2 squares, which is going to be, oh dear, really don't have enough room for this, do I? A, and square root of the b is b and b. One will be a plus and one will be a minus. On the bottom, I have a trinomial. Now we don't often see trinomials that have got 2 different letters in them. If I have an a squared at the beginning, I need an a and an a. If I have a b squared at the end, I need a b and a b. Now I just need to find any number that needs to go in there as well. So there would be a 1 in front of this b. So I'm looking for 2 numbers that times to give 1 and adds to give 2, which would be a 1 and a 1. So it's going to be a plus 1b and a plus 1b, and that's factorised. Now the divide, we're going to turn into a times. Okay, and we are going to turn this fraction upside down. So over here. Okay, this I can take out a common factor of 2, giving me a plus b. And this one here, I can't do anything with that, so that's just going to stay 1 plus a minus b. Now we still have to come back to this first one here because that can be factorised further. I'm just going to draw a line down here so we don't get confused with question 2. A plus b is a common factor. That would give me, in a second bracket, we have 1a plus b here. And over here we have an a minus b, so we can go plus a minus b to go in the second bracket. That was a bit tricky. Hopefully you followed along with that one. A plus b, just writing the rest of it all down again, because the rest is all nicely factorised as much as we can already. Now, looking for things to cancel off. Look at this, 1 plus a minus b, that can actually cancel that. A plus b on the top, a plus b on the bottom, a plus b on the top, a plus b on the bottom. Everything is gone except that 2. So that comes down to a really nice answer of 2. All that messy stuff with an answer of 2. Okay, so time to turn the page. Here is just 3 questions. Just 3 questions for you to try. See how you go. Factorise everything before you cancel out. Okay, so in question 1, I can't actually factorise anything for this first fraction. So that will stay as k plus 7 over k minus 7. The divide turns into a times, which means that the bottom here needs to come to the top, and I can factorise out a k to give me k minus 7. And this one on the top here is a difference of 2 squares, which will give me k in the front, 7 behind, 1's a plus, 1's a minus. Now we can cancel k plus 7, k plus 7, k minus 7, k minus 7. And all that is left is a k on the top and a k minus 7 for the final answer. Question 2, factorising everything. We have a trinomial on the top here, x out the front. What times is to give 10 and adds to give 7 will be a 2 and a 5 in any order. On the bottom, another trinomial. What times is to give negative 8 and adds to give a negative 2 would be a negative 4 and a positive 2. It's a times, so no flipping anything this time. We need to, another trinomial, double brackets, x in the front. What times is to give negative 12 and adds to give a 1 would be a positive 4 and a negative 3. And on the bottom, one last trinomial, x is in the front. Times is to give negative 15, adds to give a 2, would be a positive 5 and a negative 3. Alright, cancelling off x plus 2 and x plus 2. X plus 5, x plus 5, x minus 3 and x minus 3. These ones so close, but one's a plus and one's a minus, so they can't cancel. So x plus 4 will be on the top, and on the bottom all that's left is x minus 4, and that's your final answer. Alright, question 3 here is quite a tricky one. If you get this one without any help, you are doing really well with this. Okay, to factorise the top here, we have 4 terms, so normally you'd be thinking of factorising by grouping in pairs. But what you actually need to do is take these first 3 terms here and factorise that trinomial. So that is actually x is in the front, and what times is to give 4 and adds to give 4 would be 2 and 2. Okay, and a minus y squared is still sitting there on the end. We'll get back to factorising that some more in a minute. On the bottom we have a harder trinomial, so we want to times the 4 with the 15, which will give us a negative 60. So we're looking for 2 numbers that times to give a negative 60 and add to give a negative 4, which would be a negative 10 and a positive 6. So we break that middle term to be a minus 10x and a positive 6x minus 15. Turn the divide into a times, factorise the bottom here to put on the top. This we can factorise out a common factor of 5 and x, leaving us with 2x and a plus 3. This will go to the bottom, and even though there's 3 terms there, all I can do is take out a common factor of 2x, giving me x from there, a plus 2 from there, and a minus y. Alright, let's get back to this one. This is actually a difference of 2 squares. A really nasty one, but it is a difference of 2 squares. X plus 2, because they're times together like that, that's actually x plus 2 all squared. So that's squared minus something else squared. So that can factorise into 2 big brackets. The square root of x plus 2 all squared is x plus 2. The square root of y squared is y, and one's a plus and one's a minus. Okay, now that is factorised, that's done. We still have some more factorising to do here on the bottom. We can take out a common factor from these 2 terms here, so this was our grouping in pairs question now. So we can take a 2x from these first 2 terms, giving 2x minus 5. These 2 terms we can take out a factor of 3, giving 2x minus 5. Okay, that still needs more factorising, so writing all this stuff down. Okay, So sometimes there's a lot of rewriting. I'm going to rewrite the top now so I can factorize that bottom further. So on the bottom here, I have a common factor of 2x minus 5 and a 2x plus 3 will go in the bracket. Now everything is finally factorized. Writing it down again though. I can cancel off. So this is x plus 2 minus y. X plus 2 minus y can cancel. 2x plus 3. Okay, I can even cancel the x there and the x there. So what we have left is a 5 bracket x plus 2 plus y on the top. And on the bottom we have a 2 bracket 2x minus 5. And that's it. That was a very tricky question, so I hope you followed along with that one. Keep practicing. It's very easy to make little mistakes here and there. Don't get discouraged. Keep trying, keep practicing, and I will see you next time. Bye.